hot off a trip to LA. Here we are. Got four wonderful, wonderful individuals all together. Coming straight from the Borderlands 3 premiere event. Most of you guys know me. I'm FightinCowboy. But let's go down the list and get some introductions in here.
Ooh, a second.
That's you.
That's you. Yeah.
Dude, I wasn't paying attention. I'm sorry. Hi, my name is Ki11ersix. I have the worst laugh on the internet, and I play a lot of Borderlands. I play a lot of Borderlands games. Yeah, I play a lot of board games in my free time.
Awesome. My name's Matt. You know me as MrMattyPlays, maybe. I cover pretty much any RPG under the sun because I'm obsessed with them. So that goes from Persona to even Fallout. Not Fallout 76, but Fallout in general. Borderlands categorizes under there. So yeah, anything with role-playing in it, I'm on board.
My name's TeftyTeft. I would call myself a variety streamer. I did get my, I gained a following in the Destiny world, but I've definitely been doing a lot of variety lately, and I'm a huge Borderlands fan, so very excited to just talk Borderlands in general.
We got a pretty good diversity here, because I know you're more on the streaming side, Maddie. You're more on the news. I'm more on like the Let's Play realm, and then Killer, you're a little bit of everything related to Borderlands. It just kind of all falls into your lap if it's that sphere.
Nice.
So.
I'm allergic to other games, apparently.
All right. Well, to start, we were talking about earlier. We're just gonna do some quick first impressions, like an elevator speech. So just go down the list. And my first thought was going from this. I feel that they recaptured the magic that we saw from like Borderlands 1 to Borderlands 2. You know, I feel there was just a buttload of gameplay improvements. There's a lot more fluidity. It felt, you know, faster paced, more action focused, more gun focused, and I'm pretty much full on board the hype train.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, likewise. Just being there in you know, like they had their little setup, and we got to watch the pre-show and all that stuff, and just seeing all the things that they showed in that was amazing enough. And then going over and actually playing it, and yeah, like it exceeded all of my expectations.
It was a bit overwhelming, wasn't it?
It really was.
Yeah,
In a good way.
Yeah, definitely in a good way. That's kind of what I like. They showed that intro video and Randy was talking, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And then like playing it as a fan, I was just overwhelmed with all of the changes. Like I said, from the Borderlands 1 to 2 evolution, the 2 to 3 jump is going to be huge. And so if you are deep into the game, you're going to be like, oh my god, this is that new.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, man. It's hard for me to keep things short and sweet, so let me know if I'm talking too much. But yeah, dude, I was blown away personally by so many of the little things they changed. Like they added like a little ping to one of the assault rifles in the game, so it sounds like an M1 Garand. There was like a lot of little details put into the game. There's more dialogue in the story, so now it's not just a silent character and you're being talked at. You're actually talking with them, and it brings that character you're playing as to life. The multiple skill trees, multiple action skills. Like I said, little things, man. Like when you're aiming down the sights with specific guns, sometimes a little reticle pops up when you're actually targeting an enemy versus when you're not aiming at them. There's the new thing called collections, which Killer, I know you put in one of your videos for Typhon DeLeon. So there's just like a lot of cool additional pieces of content in the game on top of what, like Cowboy said, it really just recaptured the magic too of why we all love Borderlands in the first place and added on to it.
I think one of the small things that I was really impressed with, I don't know, like I hear no one else talking about this, but the health bars this time, dude, like the way they chunked, ooh, it was super satisfying.
Yeah, that was that. I think that added to the gunplay, you know, because like overall the gunplay's had a huge revamp, but like those little things, like from the sound effects to the health bar as well, to like the visual response of the bullets, all add to that feeling of like a visceral gun feel in the game.
Oh yeah, the sound in this game was spectacular. Every gun, when they said 7,500 sound files, I was like, all right, sure. And then I played the game and it was holy shit, these all sound so good.
Absolutely. Speaking of sound files, Maddie, you were talking about the sound cues of various things. The biggest one for me, that the legendary popping, when like the light beam is bigger, and also the unique legendary sound, because that was something in Diablo. You heard like that Diablo that legendary pop. Now it's going to be happening in Borderlands 3. I think that's great.
No, they got it on the map too, just like Diablo. There's a little little indicator
little
showing
star.
up.
Yeah.
So
I mean, if you miss it, there's that thing in Sanctuary 3 that recaptures the lost guns.
yeah, the
Right.
gun lost and found. That's such a nice quality of life.
The Destiny Postmaster experience.
It's essentially like they took everything that other looter shooters were doing right and eliminated all the things that they were doing wrong, and pushed it and took it like above and beyond what everybody else was doing.
True that.
Yeah, it makes it really tough to find a lot of faults right now, unless you just don't like the series or the art style. Like those are obvious things for people, but like I kind of walked away having a tough time really finding issues with the game.
Well, this is actually a good segue into one of the points we were going to talk about. Then we'll mix up the order a little bit. But what would you say was if there was one thing? I mean, I don't think there's anything anyone outright disliked, but what would you say was the thing you were least impressed with out of what we got to experience?
The AI. It sucked.
Yeah.
It was so bad. I'm sorry.
Really?
Like,
Yeah,
that's the one thing that's not good. I know Borderlands has historically not had the best enemy AI, but I mean, this was downright not functioning at times, and I hope they fix that.
Huh. Interesting. I wonder if that's a bug, because I didn't really feel like the AI was straight up stupid. I mean, it's not overwhelming you. It's not like Division 2 Hunters out in the wild or anything like that, obviously. But like, it felt fun to me. Like they would react to the environment and how I was. They weren't. A lot of them weren't just standing out in the open for me, but maybe there was some bugs in the build, and other people were having just really stupid AI.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it a million times to the point of redundancy in my videos, but my key examples were anytime I was driving around, I'd see the vehicles of the enemies veer off the road, crash into the wall, and then just sit there, and I'd just shoot them to death. As for the enemies on the ground, they usually function decently. Sometimes they'd act a little stupid, but it wasn't anything super disrupting. But yeah, when it came to the vehicles, holy smokes, man.
I can definitely, because on the ground, I would say, you know, I'm kind of with Teft here. On the ground, I felt like, you know, I wasn't getting overwhelmed.
I'd agree.
They were doing a good job. But the vehicles, yeah, man, the vehicles, they were like, it was bad.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? That's a good point. Actually, I didn't really think of the vehicles. You know, it's weird. I never think of vehicle combat in Borderlands as like a mainstay, even though it is. It's always been there. But you are right. I had a couple times where they did just lock into the wall, and I just shot them to death. But I was like, it's Borderlands. I don't really care about vehicle combat. I care about legendaries dropping, shooting them with crazy weapons.
Yeah, usually the vehicle combat in Borderlands has mostly been something you could just downright skip. There's only a few times in like a few story missions here and there in most of the Borderlands games where you have to kill somebody. And one of the things that's always been fun for me is like on Borderlands 2 when you go to the dust and then all the cars driving around there, they're always doing stupid stuff. Like, I was doing one mission on there, and the bandit literally just drove right off the cliff. and it just, I don't know, even though it's a glitch in the AI, it's a hilarious glitch that kind of works in our advantage. So I don't mind that too much.
Yeah, I was doing a one life with Maya, and I was on True Vault Hunter mode, and one of those bandit technicals actually ran me off the road, off in the cliff in the dust, just because it just hooked hard right. And ended my one life right there, and I was like, unbelievable. It's a rough way to go.
Oh, absolutely.
So
in terms of like what I thought was actually problematic in the game would just be, you know, now that they have the multi-levels and you have your 3D map, it's pretty cool that, you know, you can see all that stuff, but at the same time, there was a few times where I'm driving around and I actually had to stop and pull up my mini map, or, you know, pull up your map and look around to try and figure out which way you need to go. Now that's, you know, you can look back at like Borderlands 2 and like places like Frostburn Canyon and be like, okay, when you first start playing that, you're like, okay, I have no idea which way I'm supposed to go, and you have to check the map for that. And then after, you know, you've played for a little while, you're like, okay, I know the exact route. And I'm sure it'd be the same with this, but when you're first playing it and you have to load up the map, it's kind of not great.
Yeah, I guess my only concern going forward is because I thought the gameplay was quite remarkable, especially for any early builds I've played in any preview events I've attended, where I guess the only concern would lie in if the story will end up being good or not. I mean, I trust they'll deliver something pretty good, but they just have a lot of characters to manage and interactions to be had that will be a little fan servicey, and I just know it's going to be a lot for them, and considering we just learned through Paul Sage that the length of the game is about 30 hours just for like the main story, which is roughly the same as Borderlands 2. I think that's a lot more. They have a lot more to squeeze into those 30 to 40 hours if you add on side content compared to its previous game. So I do wonder if that'll be an issue, but I feel like they'll be just fine in that regard.
Yeah, it's interesting thinking about like, is there going to be too much content? You know?
No such thing. In a AAA game, we'll take more.
Yeah, right. It's crazy though. Looking at it, like it's gonna be a big boy game, and a lot of, like you said, a lot of characters that they're managing, a lot of storylines, and I wonder if like at the end of a gameplay or a playthrough, it's gonna feel overwhelming again. Just like all the different things that you could have done or didn't
Maybe
do.
that's why they saved the Guardian rank for the end, because if you're balancing all that at first, it could be overwhelming.
Well, the characters too. Like I know not everybody played both, but I mean there was such an immense difference between Zane and Amara. Like you could easily do a playthrough. I mean you could do multiple playthroughs with one character and have completely radically different builds every time, and it's like one of those things. I'm like, man, there's gonna be.
So how many people here played both characters?
I got to play both.
I got to play both. Okay, Killer.
All of us did. Yeah.
Oh, so everyone but me. Okay.
Oh no.
All right,
So we
so
get to tell Maddie about our experience.
yeah, I was gonna say. So I played as Amara personally, and I thought she was just like a powerhouse, man. The phase slam felt good. I thought phase lock was more well equipped for if you're playing co-op, and then the phase blast was solid. So I felt very comfortable with her, and I only messed around in her skill tree that tinkered with rush and reload speed. For you guys, when you played as Amara, which did you use? And since you played as Zane, could you compare the two a little bit and give me an idea on what I missed out on and how they differentiate?
Yeah, so I did the same as you. I played around with everything a little bit. Phase lock phase grasp as it is now. It's basically just phase lock. But phase grasp seemed really OP, like especially for a solo playthrough, like the big guys with the shield. You were like, nope, get up in the air and die. But I like the blast, the astral projection one a lot more. Just looking through that skill tree, I feel like you could do a lot of really crazy shit with it. And what was interesting is Zane. I mean, Zane, honestly, Zane seems like he's going to be a disgusting powerhouse. Just because he's very tactical, and like with the whole advantage of you can basically sacrifice your grenades to have 2 action skills. And so, you have your sentinel, and then you also had either a shield or a digiclone. And both of those are kind of more defensive-oriented options with some offensive utility, but like going down into the trees, there's some really, really crazy stuff Zane can do. Like he can put out his barrier, and the barrier gains the effect of the legendary shield. So, imagine just a barrier with like the sham effect or the B effect that everyone is able to fire through. And then his digiclone's final ability was his clone gains a copy of his gun, and we've seen what people can do with like double Norfleets. So it's like, like there's gonna be some. I think if you want more ability-based gameplay, I think Amara is the stronger contender, even though she only has 1 skill. But given all the synergy with grenades for Zane, with weapon, with shield, how that actually complements with your skills, I think he's gonna be more of a fan favorite because of the item synergy.
He sounds awesome. Like that sounds, honestly, and I usually play a Siren every time I've played Borderlands, at least in my first playthrough. But that sounds way more appealing than Amara to me. Just the idea of balancing 2 abilities and just ditching the grenades, because I feel like you could live without that, especially with how many guns this game coughs out and how different all of them are, and especially when you have like the nuclear effect, which can explode one enemy and spread the next explosion going out there. You can just make use of that and try to have that sub in as your grenade if you were really missing it.
And that's the crazy thing. Like you're sacrificing the ability to throw grenades, but you're not really sacrificing them. Like you had 1 spell in the or I shouldn't say spell, 1 ability in your drone tree where like every 15 seconds your drone would just carpet bomb with a grenade, and then you had 1 in the digiclone tree where like when you switch places, you and your clone would drop grenades. So it's like you just get everything.
Do you know if it takes the effect of the grenade mod as well, or is it just like a basic grenade that it drops?
No, it would be the grenade mod.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really interesting.
Almost definitely. I mean, but I don't know for sure. I didn't actually get that far down in the tree, but almost definitely. That's what it usually has been in Borderlands games.
Yeah, I'd have to to check
on
it,
paper,
but I'm pretty sure that you're right there with it taking the mod.
So on paper, Zane does seem like he's going to be just an insane powerhouse once you hit endgame. But at the same time, we don't know what grenade mods are in Borderlands 3 yet. And like say the fastball, fastball is just amazing. It's super fun. And would I want to give up a fastball for one of his action abilities? Obviously, I haven't experimented with the in-game stuff for him, so maybe that is the case, or it might be the case that I'd rather be able to chuck fastballs. So yeah, it was interesting playing both. I'm definitely a Siren fan, and I used Amara's first ability, the Titan Slam, as Destiny players would call it, a lot, and that was great. And then towards the end, I got to use the other abilities, and I was really surprised at how well they just felt across the board in their basic form. Because, as you know, we had very little time to spec anything. Yeah, I haven't even really looked at the skill trees all that much because that's an overwhelming thing that I usually want to take my time with, right? Yeah, like in Theorycraft. So for me, the Amara was just 100% my favorite, and I'm going to be playing Amara day one. But I do see the end game potential of Zane, but it didn't feel as flashy or as fun.
Yeah,
in my opinion, right? Yeah, like Amara was just
the augments.
visceral.
Because did you guys have a chance to check out a bunch of those? I only got to one augment with Amara, and it was the phase blast one where she healed her, I think 30% of her life whenever she landed the attack.
30% of the damage done goes back to health.
Yeah, that's what I was using too. It was surprising too, because like it was just going. I was like, oh, health, free health.
I think it's really good though, and maybe
ability.
you guys will disagree because I know you Killer and Teft and Cowboy as well. You guys have all run through this game plenty of times, and I have as well, but maybe not to the extent of you guys. Where I thought this was a good augment personally, because one thing I always had an issue with in Borderlands is it almost encouraged you to go down because there were so little ways to increase your health at a certain point in the game that you might as well just go down, revive yourself, and get your half health at least. And so I like the idea of certain abilities regenning. But did you guys get a look at any other augments?
Oh yeah. No, there's a lot of diversity. Like that was one of the things I did is I went basically spent 20 minutes on each skill tree just going in depth in theory crafting, and there's a really good split. There's augments that are like that for more sustain. There's augments that are more focused around CC and locking down targets. There's There's augments that are just outright like pure damage boosters. So there's definitely, I mean, that's one of the things I think I'm most excited about with this game is, you know, we're used to having one action skill and then we can like assign an element to it. Now we have an action skill, we can augment it in some way, we can assign an element to it, and you know, with stuff like Amara doesn't have 3 action skills. She essentially has 9. Because you have like phase blast, you have the phase blast where it gets progressively more damage, or you have the phase blast where it just shits out elemental lasers. And it's like, dude, like there's so much personalization now. It's gonna be phenomenal.
Yeah, like those augments are going to be huge, and I'm wondering if there's going to be legendary class mods that are also going to change those augments as well.
Oh god!
On top of it, you know. I mean, that's pretty nuts, right? Like the potential is just enormous.
Like a good type of exciting because everyone's going to have an individual experience at the very least, even if you don't play the game over a bunch of times. It's going to be different for everyone.
Yeah,
and that's well. One thing I want to touch real fast, just because I know we were talking about things we were slightly disappointed about, and I know we only got to play a small section of gameplay, but I felt like there was a lot of kind of forced downtime almost. Like, you know, we make it all the way up to Lorelei, and then there was the, all right, you know, follow me, and all right, wait to go through the dialogue and get into the camp, and then finally we were fighting some bandits again, and then, you know, we fight our way up, and then we talk to the Atlas CEO, and it's like another 4 or 5 minutes of downtime, and I love that stuff. I love getting that story, but that's one of those things where it's like on subsequent playthroughs, I really hope there's a way to, you know, like, all right, let me hit this button and just, speed this shit up. I don't need the dialogue. Get me back to shooting and killing and looting.
Yeah. I'm wondering, though, like, how much of that is actually even necessary. Like, you know, in a lot of the Borderlands games, you can literally just skip all that, just run to the door, and boom, it cuts to the next part of the story. So I didn't test that on any of my 3 playthroughs that I did on there. But I'm thinking you could probably just run past those Malawan dudes, hit the door, and then boom, you're right on the next mission. At least that's what I'm hoping, because like you said, if not, then subsequent playthroughs are going to be kind of.
I mean, it makes sense because you could definitely tell there were certain things that they weren't working because we were on a demo build. Like there were things that I tried doing that, you know, typically, like you said, that would force advance. But.
Well, yeah, because there was, for example, the Reese conversation you have. And I don't think that was skippable at all. Like he just popped up as a hologram and you had to stand there and wait till he was done talking for the quest objective to advance. So, I mean, I don't know how many times that'll happen. It's a good point that you guys mentioned in subsequent playthroughs, but I mean, otherwise. I thought the beginning, and maybe it's because we talked about being overwhelmed. Maybe I was just feeling overwhelmed initially, but at first I felt it was a little slow to start, and it wasn't until I got into the Meridian Metro Complex or whatever it was called that I felt like it really hit its stride in that last, like, you know, it was the first half hour that was kind of slow, and after all that, it was like, oh shit, this game is amazing. But yeah, it took a little bit to warm up, so yeah, there is a little bit of forced downtime here and there.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's like Liarsburg in BL2 in the beginning, you know, where like Claptrap's explaining things, you kill some Bullymong, and then you go get introduced to Hammerlock and some bandits. Like, it has that pacing. Granted, it was level 10. So it's a good question. Is it going to maintain that type of pacing throughout, or is it going to really open up with certain things? You'd probably be able to just like quit and then reload.
Yeah, that's
and
what,
skip most of that.
Yeah,
right?
When you're doing like speed runs, or if you're trying to like hustle through on Borderlands 2, like when you get to the part where you've cleared out the bandit camp, and Claptrap needs to go touch the door, you can just save and quit, and boom, he's touched the door. He's, you know, all that kind of stuff. So it'll be interesting to see if we can do the same kind of stuff on here, or if, you know, say like you finish normal mode, if True Alternate mode just starts you at a point beyond all of that.
Right,
jazz,
that's
you
a
know
good
what I
point.
mean?
Yeah.
Which would be nice.
How do you guys feel actually if they do the exact formula with Borderlands 2, where it's like you go True Vault Hunter mode, and you know it's not really changed? I mean, the enemies have changed, the scaling has changed, but like, are you guys okay with them just continuing that path? Would you like to see it get adjusted?
I feel like if it's not broken, don't fix it. You know, that's the thing. I really liked how it worked, and they kind of added the additional stuff on the side with these new skill trees, where I feel like if I wanted to go back in a new playthrough, I could just start a new character, or I don't know, if you could just continue expanding those trees. I don't know if they just cap you off at a certain point and stop the skill points. But yeah, overall, I feel like if they carried over just that same True Vault Hunter system, then why change it?
Yeah, sure. I don't see anything wrong with it, really.
Yeah, I think
That's a good one.
if they really want to get formulaic with it, then do what they did in the pre-sequel. And I know, like, instantly just saying pre-sequel, everybody's, yeah, but in the pre-sequel, in the pre-sequel, when you completed like normal mode and then you went into True Vault mode, you got different dialogue from the
You
characters.
went that far with the pre-sequel?
I did not know that.
I played
I
through
had
it
no idea.
multiple times. Yeah, yeah, you
I
would
played
actually
through
get different
twice, and I was just
dialogue
like,
during the
I'm
stories. But yeah, I thought that, and I don't know if you guys noticed this. I'm gonna veer off for a second here, but I don't know if you guys noticed, but like when I was picking up all the different weapons and stuff, I noticed that like the damage values, like for say level 11, like, you know, 15 damage, and then you look at like a level 11 gun on Borderlands 2 and it's like 50, 60 damage. So it seems to me that the scaling on this is more in tune with like Borderlands 1 or the pre-sequel with the damage scaling,
Yeah,
which in my opinion is a good
thing.
thing, because when you got to like ultimate mode in Borderlands 2, you're just like, okay, I have to have a grog.
Yeah.
And that just becomes unfun after a while.
Yeah, and the numbers get a little ridiculous up there too with all the
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it has the classic World of Warcraft program, or the problem where you get a, you know, how many millions of damage are you critting for? Like, let's just scale this down to normal numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would you say?
How about did you guys like this might be a little, not really a gameplay mechanic, but did you guys get an interesting response at all to the, what was it, the EchoCast extension on Twitch? Did you guys get a good response to that at all? Because like some of my viewers didn't like how it was raffle based, or it was like 25%. People, I think, apparently get loot from it. It's like one item.
I think it's a great idea, but people are gonna bitch about it. And what baffles my mind here is it's free stuff. You have a chance to win stuff that's absolutely free, and people are still like, well, I didn't win the free thing. I only had, like, oh my god, dude. Like, Maddie, I've talked to you about this, but like, we are literally in like the most entitled fucking generation where they didn't have a high enough chance to win something that was free to begin with, and it's like, Jesus fucking Christ, please stop.
My biggest positive takeaway from it was that no one in the chat came in and asked me what I'm building, who I'm playing as, what gun I had in my hand. They just looked through the extension. It just cut away so much of the
That's nice, yeah.
Almost from the chat where people were talking about what's happening on screen or asking different questions. I think it eliminates a thing that it never got annoying as a streamer. I was totally fine. I'm always fine with like repeating my build, but you know, there gets a point where you know, you're like 2 hours into that stream and you got to save for like the 6th time. And you're like, okay.
Well, no, I think it's great to that extent because I mean, Teft, I'm sure you do it. You know, you end up making build commands, or you have links to an outside site that's like showing your build and what you're using. I mean, I do the same thing with Magic. You need to have links to your decks, or if you're playing Diablo, you gotta have links to your build. So having the ability for somebody to just mouse over and see all of your shit at a super in-depth level, that's huge quality of life.
Yeah, it's next level, honestly. I mean, the integration that they're doing with that, just for the loot, is going to be an absolute game changer for streamers, for sure. The RNG aspect, I mean, I don't mind that. So mine broke. I couldn't actually have it live when I was streaming because I had already linked my account, and that screwed it up. And I was like, well, I don't want to waste 30 minutes on doing this. Let's just stream. So I didn't actually get the experience of people using it, but me personally, I think it's perfectly fine that they're doing RNG based type of stuff because I think it would be a little much if every time you popped a red chest you were guaranteed loot for every viewer.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Annoying.
Yeah, that's a little much, right? So I think it's fine with the RNG.
I did notice sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it just reminded me. And you guys might know the answer to this, but I don't know if there was like always a limited amount of red chests per location, but or like a determined amount rather. But in Borderlands 3, I noticed when I opened my second red chest after the Gigamine boss fight, it said like you've opened 2 out of 2 red chests in this location. And so I think what happens is now viewers can kind of farm loot from Twitch streamers in a sense.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty funny. Obviously, there's a percentage chance that you may fail, but I just thought that was like a cool thing to note.
Well, it's also really smart how they did this because Warframe did a loot type of thing, and it ended up becoming like a borderline viewbot type of system where you had tons of people with like thousands of viewers and nobody was like actually engaging with the content because because all you had to do was have the Twitch stream open and it would give you loot in Warframe. I personally think that's like a bad system. Yeah. And they fixed that with this where you have to actually interact with the chat and have a chance at getting that loot. So people have to be engaged with your content to actually participate in that event. It is interesting though whether or not they're going to limit it. Like maybe during your playthrough, every red chest only has one chance to trigger for a Twitch chat loot drop type of thing, which I think would be a little disappointing if they did that. So you couldn't be able to like just reload, because I could definitely see streams going on where people are just reloading chests to trigger events for chat, which I don't think that's a bad thing. Like if people want to do that, cool, you get free loot. But I could see how they might be looking at that and saying maybe they don't want people to farm chests that hardcore for Twitch streams.
Right. I mean, they might be like autosave. Like once you've hit a chest in a zone, that zone doesn't spawn a new one until New Game Plus, basically.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like maybe they're like keeping track of your playthrough for those chests, and if you checked them off for that playthrough, then you can't actually hit them again.
I mean, the only thing I don't like about
it. There was a timer on it.
And
there was like a time base on
that could be it too.
The chest thing. I thought it was 30 minutes, which would definitely eliminate the whole like saving, quitting, farming thing.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, the only thing I don't like about it, and it isn't even like a bad thing necessarily, but between the sheer utility of EchoCast and the chance for viewers to get loot while you're playing, like honestly, I'm just gonna stream the whole game, and I'm gonna upload it to YouTube. But like, as somebody that has a channel focused on like Let's Play type content, there is no fucking reason to Let's Play this thing on YouTube over streaming it and then uploading it. Like YouTube is just like a
kind of a smart business decision when you think about it from Gearbox and Take-Two.
Oh no, yeah, Twitch is definitely the money maker for games these days, without question. Yeah. Which I mean, I'm fine with, because ultimately, I do plenty of streaming, but it's just like, man, I feel, for the channels that don't really stream, that just do YouTube, they're just gonna be sitting there with like a pout face on, like, I don't like it.
It's gonna successfully put a lot of people into the streaming space for Borderlands 3, and I think that's what Gearbox ultimately wants.
Yeah, I think you're right, Matty. They're definitely going to push a lot of people into like, hey, if you haven't streamed yet, now is a perfect time if you're into Borderlands, because this is one of these things where it's like, there was games and then this happened, and now it's like, well, clearly you should have some Twitch integration because it was so successful with this game. I feel like that's going to be part of what happens with this extension because it's so well thought of.
There's a Twitch extension for, I don't know if it's an extension, but Borderlands or Rage 2 has one that's gonna let like viewers revive you or something like that if you die.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, you're slowly seeing that type of integration happen because it's becoming so popular.
Yeah.
I mean, certain games like Dead Cells, the Twitch integration of Dead Cells is freaking good.
Phenomenal. Yep.
Yeah, it's like a different game. It's amazing.
Yeah, and your viewers can be mean, they can be helpful. Like it adds a lot of quality experience. So one of them becomes an owl in the game or a bird.
Yeah, it actually has their username and they follow you around and decide when you can heal and shit. Like,
yeah, it was so cool.
Yeah, there's been discussion amongst the Gearbox people that there's more to come in terms of the integration.
That's great.
It's really nice to see that they're totally on board with, you know, what can we do with this? How can we make this a better experience for not just, you know, people that enjoy the Borderlands games, but also the people that help promote our product, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And where else could they go with it? I mean, I'm sure they have a good idea, but I don't know. The only thing that comes to mind is some like off-the-wall idea when you get like a Guardian rank, maybe you're.
I mean, they could have something where like if enough viewers hit a command, it spawns a badass into your game or some shit like that.
That'd be awesome.
That's
or
cool.
if the viewers somehow became part of your game, would be pretty neat in some way, shape, or form.
With like raid bosses, they could do a lot of things where the viewers could do commands for the raid boss itself to trigger some sort of type of thing that it does. They could also do loot-based type of stuff for raid bosses when they die and pop. Like it could be like, here's 3 or 4 rares or legendaries and rares that potentially could pop for them from a raid boss kill.
Quest rewards. I get that a lot. Like I'll put up a poll in chat and be like, all right guys, do we take the shotgun or the SMG and have people vote? Have that automatically in the game so people type in 1 or 2 translates to the quest or what you get.
That'd
be cool.
That sounds more like it, yeah. Although I never got that in any of the quests in this game, or rather in the demo that we played. It always just popped up the reward on the right side, like what I got.
I mean, we didn't exactly do too much, to be fair.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like in general, I didn't experience that yet.
Actually, you know what? That is something that I did kind of find not as cool as Borderlands 2. I did like that the prompt to pop up and show me what I was getting from the reward.
What the
instead
reward
of just,
was, some flavor
I
text.
was about to say the same thing because I did that the Nog mission. I don't know if you guys got to do that one with the little wrestler
down in the sewer.
Yeah, the mission reward apparently was a legendary, and I didn't even know that I got it.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, because it only pops up like underneath your mini map. It says like reward and it says legendary grenade mod. I didn't even see it.
What I thought was weird is that one of the weapons it was like a rocket launcher. I think it was a story mission reward, and it was called the Ghetto Burger.
Yeah.
It was the rocket launcher that shot out hamburgers, and it was it looked like a blue rocket launcher, so you're like, whatever.
Right.
And then you had to actually go in your inventory to find out. I agree. I'd rather them prompt us that, hey, you got some really cool shit.
Yeah, in Borderlands 2, you would have seen like the blue with the text on it. I'd be like, oh, this is a unique weapon. Instead, they just hand it to you immediately. So I'm not a fan of that change.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I get why they probably did it to keep it streamlined, to keep you moving. Yeah. But when we just covered the downtime that's there, it's like, why keep us moving if you're going to slow us down at other parts of the game intentionally?
Yeah.
So what do you got? I mean, I think one thing I'm interested in, because we haven't seen anything yet, but seeing how crazy both Amara and Zane were, I want to know what
the other characters,
Flak and Mose are going to be like.
I'm so on board with Flak, man. I hope he is so good. I'll be so upset if he is not good.
Yeah, because that's my thing. I'm a whore for like pet type classes, and I'm like, this sounds like my jam here, but I love my sirens, and it's a hard decision to make.
You know, I hope that all the other two are as interesting, just straight up across the board. Like I want
they gotta be
every action. Yeah, right. But I want them to knock it out of the park with every action skill being like, damn, I want to use this, but I want to use this, I want to use this. Like that's how I was feeling with Amira.
I feel like Flak's almost a given because the animals, your creatures rather, he sends out change based off his action skill. We already know that, so I feel like that's almost a given that they will have that one feeling unique and different from the rest of the characters, just because it seems like he's gonna have more of a sit back and send your creature out approach rather than it seems like Zane and Amara, which are more getting the action. We don't know much about Moze other than she calls him pretty much her own Titan. But yeah, that'll be dope.
Stand by for Titanfall.
Yeah, literally though.
Do you guys think that they're going to add new characters like they did with the previous games?
I would imagine
DLC
so,
characters?
because they kind of hinted at having some pretty big DLC plans towards the end of the like presentation reveal. So I'd bet we're gonna. My guess is we're gonna see 2 big chunks of DLC. I bet we're gonna start level 50, and they're gonna take the 61-72 approach and add 2 additional characters.
Yeah, Randy Pitchford just said on Twitter, he responded to someone asking about DLC characters like in the pre-sequel in Borderlands 2, and he said that according to data, all right, this was the crazy part, according to data, more people would prefer expanding on the existing Vault Hunters skill trees rather than adding new ones. Yeah, they said obviously they hadn't made a decision yet, but he was saying on his Twitter account that pretty much more people would rather them expand on what's already there.
So like adding like a 4th tree or just more skills?
Yeah, presumably like adding a 4th tree, which
I don't know.
I mean,
that would be
from
crazy.
experience, from experience, you know, I like the idea, but if we're already talking about how overwhelming it looks from the outside, oh my god, all these skills, all this shit we got to balance, and then you're adding a 4th tree, which is good, because you know, let's say someone comes in late, gets the Game of the Year edition, which a lot of people pick up Borderlands late and get all the DLC and characters combined for $60. You know, that'll be cool for them to have a 4th tree to pick from, but I just like the idea of a new character. But I had a couple of theories as to why they would do this, and my first one was more so that they added dialogue in for the main characters, and they'd have to redo all the story dialogue for the speakers.
Yeah, new voice actors, new lines.
Yeah, and the other one was, I remember hearing this of all games, Skyrim, because I just made a video on this, so that's why it's like fresh off the top of my head. And I remember Skyrim streamlining its systems in a way where you could be good at everything, because they started to look at data and see that players were less and less repeating playthroughs and trying different builds like you would in Oblivion in 06, but now they started focusing on making your character this godlike figure. And I think without, you know, because obviously the characters already have a ton of replayability, you can tell that just by looking at the skill tree, but I think Gearbox is trying to streamline that a little bit more in their own way with the DLC and maybe added skills. That's just my own theory.
With the Guardian ranks too, potentially to grind out your character to these different levels.
Yeah, and I mean, at that point, it's up to Gearbox to then add not just campaign DLC, but like interesting content in the existing world to make me want to stick with those characters to that absurd amount of time to grind out all those trees and see all those Guardian ranks and the impact they have on my character and see why that build's worth my while.
Yeah, that's interesting. I feel conflicted about them wanting to expand skill trees versus adding new characters. Yeah, I mean, I totally understand from a business perspective that, yeah, that's a big undertaking to have a new character, to have to redo all those lines, and if they do any DLC, they have to do all those lines as well and all that, so it makes sense.
Kind of the Destiny approach, isn't it? Like, they've had the same, was it 3? It's been a while.
3 characters?
Yeah, three main, Hunter, Titan,
and Trash Can. That's what it is.
And basically they just added some new skill trees for them. Is that what they did on Destiny 2? I don't remember.
Yeah, with Forsaken, they expanded the skill trees beyond what was there, which was cool. It was very exciting, but they didn't have to add any kind of very specific dialogue or anything. I mean, our character's already basically mute in Destiny.
But in terms of, like, for you as a person that played a whole lot of Destiny, do you feel like it would have been more quality of life, more value had they added, like, say, 2 new classes instead of doing what they did?
People are definitely, they like what they've added in the changes, but there's always been discussions and desires for them to add beyond the base 3, like an Elixir class, basically be able to play as the Fallen. Like those have been theorized and just like speculated big time about how cool it would be to be able to play these different characters, but they haven't. And Bungie's an interesting developer. They're very passionate, they're very talented, they do some really cool stuff, and then they make some really strange decisions at the same time. So I don't know. I think the fan base for Destiny would love it if there was some brand new like classes to play as, but same type of thing. Like the lore is like there's 3 characters in there, or three players or 3 styles that's in the lore.
Well, I know, and I don't follow Destiny much, but I know they just basically got out of the thumb of out from under Activision's thumb. So
yeah,
recently they might be doing some design overhauls. I'd imagine now that they have more creative freedom.
They should. I mean, technically, September is always a big Destiny month because it seems like historically Activision said, "Hey, you need to put something out." But now they own their IP and they can own their schedule. And if I was at all in their position, I'd be like, let's skip September this year because a huge amount of the player population that likes Destiny likes Borderlands. And a lot of them came from Borderlands to play Destiny because obviously there was nothing really going on in Borderlands at the time. As you know, a lot of streamers. And I think it'd be really rough, honestly.
Yeah,
if
they try to compete with the Borderlands 3 launch, like.
Yeah, Borderlands 3 is going to be a juggernaut release, 100%.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the type of game that a lot of companies clear out of that space from.
No, yeah, I mean it's gonna push me back even on Monster Hunter. I'm probably just gonna wait for the PC launch because, I mean they're both 100+ hour session style games where it's like for a week that's literally all you're gonna play, and you're not gonna be juggling both of them at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah, a lot of people were asking me like, "Hey, you gonna play Monster Hunter?" And I was like, if there's nothing in Borderlands that gets released, then yeah. But, well, fate's been sealed at this point. I'm playing Borderlands.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, like I said, I've been to a decent amount of these preview events, and it's rare I walk away. I'll be like, oh, I like that, but I'm not like super jazzed, or it feels so far out. But I guess maybe it's the combination of, oh, it's in 4 months, it's releasing, and hey, more importantly, that was really good.
Yeah.
And that was just a small taste, and it almost in a way didn't make me want to come home and play 1 and 2 to satiate that itch I had to play. I just wanted 3 because it did so many things I appreciated. Like I said, I was over the moon on that sound. I thought that was one of the most impressive aspects, and then the way they did some quality of life enhancements, it just made me kind of want to sit back and wait for 3 and not play 1 again or hop back into 2. Just wait for 3.
It really emphasized how barren of a release schedule we have until Borderlands 3. Like we got Rage 2. Rage 2 looks awesome, but then like we have a summer.
I mean that's standard, man. It's the gaming summer drought. I don't know about you guys, but I mean I was so overwhelmed by the event it even destroyed my immune system. So
same.
I was a little under the weather today and yesterday. I felt like I wasn't sick, but I was kind of like just out of it.
I came full. It was like PAX Pox 2.0. Just so many streamers and YouTubers in one place.
Yeah, pretty lucky. I definitely felt tired, but nothing is really like settled in right now.
It's probably because for me,
crossed.
I wash my hands a ton and I shower a shit ton at these events now. I don't screw around. Because I used to always get super sick after anything, and then because I'd be so tired and run down, and I'd just catch something. And
I think it's the booze for me, because I like to get boozed up at events, and the combination of germs plus lowering my own immune system with booze, which I had to tell you guys, I had 2K folks brought me into the staff party.
I remember you texting me.
And then I'm like sitting there at the staff party, and I'm drinking, I'm snacking on some things, and Melissa finds me, and she's like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "What?" She's like, "This is a staff party, cowboy. Get out of here!" I'm like, what? I didn't know. How was I supposed to know?
You're like, you're invited.
No, like I was invited in, man.
That's funny.
Got invited and booted.
One thing I want to say also about that event is, I think that it's going to set the stage for a lot of companies to have to look at and be like, Gearbox was so confident in the game that they invited hundreds of content creators out to just play it and say whatever. Play it and just be like, give us your impressions. That is a ballsy move to be like, here's a demo build. We've been working on this game.
I mean,
here's the first time seeing the gameplay.
Now, to be fair, though, like if you look at I mean, this outside of this, Gearbox hasn't really had a big game in a while. I know even Randy said it. They've pretty much been given open liberty to just take as much time as they wanted to make this game, which is something we don't get to see a lot in the industry.
At least the AAA side, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Very few games get like to put what they want into a game. Like I was saying, like the Sanctuary thing is amazing because I feel like most games would have been like, that's a cool idea, but we don't have 2 years to develop that, so we're cutting that. But it's, you know, like they're like, well, let's make Sanctuary 3 a thing where it's your ship. It's impressive.
Yeah, I was surprised. We didn't even get to touch on that, did we? Like,
No, just what we saw in the preview.
Yep.
Pretty crazy. Yeah, because it made even what we played feel more significant because it was separate from what they showed.
Yeah.
Kind of well thought out in that regard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what they bring to E3. And even to GuardianCon. I know that they're going to have a presence at GuardianCon.
That's wild to me.
Yeah, that is
it's
wild.
basically
It's
like saying, Destiny, I need you to scoot over. I've got something I want to show to everybody.
Right. Wait, no, GuardianCon is put together Goth and Broman. You know, like they're huge Borderlands players, so it's obviously very close to them. So that is massive to have them come out and make it playable for people at GuardianCon. So it's incredible.
I could see it though, because that Goth and Embro are both those are two names in the the Borderlands sphere.
Yep.
I would say you could even argue they in a sense almost built themselves on Borderlands. So in a way, this is it's for them. Like obviously it's not just free advertising. When you consider how much they're spending on these events, but it is a chance to drop a massive positive reception on what is essentially their core audience.
Yeah.
And raise money for St. Jude at that.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's a real
Really
good
great
marketing
cause,
move for them.
Yeah. Again, they like I said, they came from Borderlands into Destiny, and that's why a lot of Destiny players are also Borderlands players as well, unless you're strictly PvP. There's a lot of PvP players out there that are Destiny focused.
Yeah, man, Borderlands has good PvP. I got this dope Mordecai build.
Were any of you guys nervous that they were going to go down a PvP route? Not necessarily Battle Royale, but like with what they did with Battleborn. Are any of you guys nervous that they were going to take some of that and put it into Borderlands?
I'm one of 4 people who actually enjoyed Battleborn, and like one of my theories before was like, oh, they're gonna have this own PvP. Like, and by the way, this is like a just off the walls fan theory, not like I actually thought it was gonna happen. But I was like, wouldn't it be cool if they just brought back the Battleborn characters, made them a part of the Borderlands universe? Because Battleborn had that Easter egg that teased Borderlands 3. And so you bring those characters back, you have your own PvP mode, and you kind of like resurrect Battleborn through Borderlands 3. I was like, that'd be dope if they did that, because I thought that game was really fun. But in the actual scheme of things, being serious, I thought that they probably wouldn't take this route. It just seemed like based off. I know sometimes it's a silly thing to go off of, but just some of Randy's tweets, it didn't signify to me like things were drastically changing. The only thing that was worth worrying about, which got confirmed very fast, was the Epic Store. He was
good old Randy's
openly
tweets.
supporting. Yeah, Randy's tweets.
Yep. Dude, right now Randy's tweets are. I would, if we had to argue, what's the biggest threat to Borderlands 3 right now? Well, have you seen Randy's Twitter lately? Like,
Randy's tweets,
dude.
That's funny. I like how passionate he is. Like you can tell he really.
That's very rare in a CEO nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. Like the CEO is actually essentially a fan of the franchise that he's making. You don't see that too often.
Yeah, I mean, because I remember when, I don't know when, I know, Cowboy, you had the morning session the day I played, but I don't know about you two. I played in the afternoon on the last day, so we were the last session, and the demo guys did something really cool during our playthrough, and Randy was like jumping like a child on stage in sheer joy and excitement at what just happened. He's like, yo, that was so sick. And so he's got his flaws, but I think it's really refreshing to see that type of legitimate excitement from
Yep.
Yeah,
it was a cool moment for me when they showed some of my gameplay up on the big screen, and I looked over and saw Randy looking at the big screen.
Yeah, that's cool.
I was like, oh, he almost knows who I am.
So
that's awesome.
Coming up
with Todd Howard.
on an hour here.
Oh,
Time flies, right?
Time flies, man.
I guess before we close out, we never actually touched on what was, out of everything, what was the most impressive thing for you with the experience. Killer, you want to start?
Sure. So obviously just them taking, what was it, like 400 something odd people from all over the world, flying them to LA, and basically telling every single person, give us your honest opinion. Don't blow smoke. If you don't like it, let us know. And obviously just all the quality of life changes, you know, being able to mantle, being able to slide, auto ammo, auto money pickup. The gunplay felt crisp. Like I'd reach real hard for flaws and find very few.
Yeah. No, I mean, you kind of took the words out of my mouth, man. I was really impressed with what was there. It felt very, very finely tuned. It felt like a game that had a lot of time spent on it. In a way that was interesting, because often when games are in development for so long, there are sections that scream, okay, this was in the oven for a while this is fresh and new. And I didn't get that feeling when playing this game. And one thing I'll note is, and some people will take this as a smack in the face, but I thought the gunplay felt like Call of Duty in a sense. I mean that in a complimentary way, because it felt tight, it felt smooth, guns played properly, and it made for a much better player feedback. Like when I was killing things, it was satisfying to go on a string of wiping out enemies. One thing I did note though was there was not a lot of recoil, but
yeah, recoil was non-existent. I felt like. Yeah,
I don't really care personally. I know some people did, but that was one thing I could just turn the cheek to.
Tefty?
Yeah, if I was gonna pick one thing about the event, like, or about the game and what we saw, I think it's gonna have to come back to the gunplay as well, and the overall loot. For me, loot is top tier. Like one of my main things that I look for in games like this. And Borderlands obviously has always been one of the best franchises for loot. As a Destiny player, we're kind of starved for loot right now. Like Destiny really curates their loot. It's really good, but there's very few and far between for the sandbox that they built. Borderlands 3 looks like they have taken all of the things that are great about BL1 and BL2 and then looked at the industry and said, we need to make the guns feel really good. Throw all that together, and I walked away feeling like they did exactly my dream loot system of just so much variety, so much just visceral feel from all the different guns. Like I'm picking up white guns, green guns, blue guns, and just having so much personality come out of the guns. I was like, this is incredible. This is exactly what I wanted in a Borderlands evolution for the loot. And I got to see a few legendaries because, you know, they came around and hit the P key to poop out loot. And like the gun ring came back, and like the gun ring has this like beautiful wood texture on it. So like the visuals, the generation for all the parts, and the sheer size of that sandbox that they built for the potential of all these guns just blew me away. It was like to the point where I was like, man, if I like try to fantasize about something that could be in the game, like I feel like they've nailed all that stuff for me. Like that's incredible. So that was my biggest takeaway. So the loot looks amazing.
Yeah, no, that's actually mine as well. The guns, like, and I ultimately settled on this, like, you know, getting back from the trip and going through footage and editing it, looking at everything, and going through all the stuff I had from Zane and Amara, and I didn't have a single gun that was similar to any other gun. Like every single, like even, you know, like, oh, I have this kind of shotgun. Like I went through 4 or 5 different shotguns, and each of them were separate. One of them was like a semi-rapid fire. One of them had like a charge shot type pattern. One of them, it was shooting out these globs. One of them was shooting out these like energy rings. And just that level of weapon variety, knowing that, you know, like you said, you could pick up a white gun and it could end up blowing you away with what it does. And I think the thing that sealed the deal for me, I was, did you guys get to play with the guns with legs at all?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so I had one of those, and it was already cool because not only was it a gun with legs, but, you know, if like the one I had, if I threw it at a wall or something, it would stick to it, kind of like an Axton turret. Mm-hmm. And
that's cool. I didn't realize you could do that.
Yeah, it was pretty bonkers. So I go down, and I was like, you know, trying to mess with this one guy, and I go down in this lower area, and everything is above, and I can't see the enemies, and I'm like, this is the lamest fucking way to die, because, you know, everyone, you hate that shit when you go down and you can't hit an enemy, and instead I just started shooting and reloading and shooting and reloading, and I threw like 4 or 5 of these little guns with legs up top, and they killed someone for me, and I was like, oh, let's go, oh my god, jumped up like a freaking kid getting that Power Ranger set on Christmas, man. I was so freaking excited. I was like, this is what I came out to LA for. This right here, this moment.
Yeah.
Did you also notice that the enemies would try and kick the little guns with legs?
Yeah,
Like they would try and
Oh,
kick
I
them
didn't notice
away.
that.
It
That's
was
great.
hilarious.
Dude, I had,
Like,
an,
get
I
away
had
from
an
me.
army going at one point. I swear there was like 8 or 9 of these things. I was like, come
Yeah,
on.
I'd always just shoot one bullet and throw the gun after that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even bother
Yep.
trying to use the actual ammunition for the gun.
No, they were
Same.
Popping out
delicious.
little turrets.
Did you guys get the legendary from Gigamind?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. Like you throw that out, there's a bunch of brains walking around, shooting stuff.
I didn't get to test it because that's when they came over and started hitting the P-key, and I got 2 other legendaries, and I was like, oh.
Oh, nice.
Man, that's the one I got. I didn't get legendary from him, and then when they hit the P key thing, all the freaking legendaries that dropped were a level higher than me, so I didn't get to experience a single one.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that hurt my soul a little bit, but
Yeah.
all right.
You guys are all welcome to use my Amara stream footage if you want that. So I've got the drop from Gigamind on there, plus
Nice.
a bunch of legendaries at the end of that.
Yeah, I saw you had that one video up going through a bunch of legendaries already. I'm like,
Oh,
this is
Yeah.
these
Like,
guys.
you can actually hear the guy in the background say, "Here, try this," and like he hits the key like a few times, and he's like, "Go crazy with it," and I took him at his word. Like I legitimately at one point probably had at least 500 guns on the ground, if not
Wow.
close to 1,000 guns on the ground.
Yes.
And I would drop a little bit of frames, but like if you did that kind of thing in Borderlands 2, like if you used some cheats and you dropped a bunch of guns, like even close to that many guns, your game would have crashed.
Just tank it. Yeah.
Yeah, but on this, I had like so many guns. It was kind of ridiculous, honestly.
Because I got a legendary that was like a sniper that shot like an energy orb, and then you could shoot a bolt into it and it would blow up. And the other one I got was a minigun with a bipod, and it would just you'd keep like moving this handle on the gun, and it'd just be popping out bullets for I think like 100 bullet clip. It's pretty crazy. High rate of
great.
fire. I think it said speed kills on it.
Love
Yeah, I
it.
had
Yeah,
the-
so, I think this is another thing that's crazy about this this demo is that they have that much loot in the demo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they actually gave us access to that sandbox right there, and I think that's why I walked away feeling like, holy crap, this is just a dream.
Yeah. One of my friends jokingly said that we got more content in this 90-minute demo than what Anthem has at launch.
I got that on my timeline comment as
That
well.
was damn it to hell, right?
Yeah, it was damn it to hell. Yeah.
Oh man,
You nailed it, dude. You're
that's
so
harsh.
right.
Harsh,
Harsh but
harsh
true.
but true.
And then somebody commented shots fired, and I said, well, only after they go back to the hub to equip their weapon.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Hey, they patched. You can do it in the field.
You can
now.
actually do it out there now? Well,
Oh, really?
better late than never.
Yeah, they just had to push back their entire content schedule. So it's but we can put our guns in the field
No
now.
biggie,
So
right?
Oh god, just hearing about that, I have an analogy for Anthem. Every time I hear people talk about it, I'm like, it's like that girl that you were super enamored with back in school, and then you finally go on a date with her, and she just gets drunk, and she's like puking on herself and stumbling, and you're like, no, why? Why did it come to this? But
Oh man.
anyway, all right, boys. Well, all good things must come to an end. Before we wrap up, everyone want to shout out where their channels are, stuff like that?
Sure. I'll get started. MrMattyPlays on both Twitch and YouTube. Like I said in the beginning, tons of RPG coverage if that's your thing.
Proper kudos for taking out
Yeah.
Captain Roe, Vault Hunter.
I am TeftyTeft. You can talk to me at Teft on Twitter. Catch my streams, twitch.tv/TeftyTeft. I do have a YouTube channel. I hardly ever post to it because I should post more, but I don't. So it's one of those things. I'm also on a podcast as well, DCP, which we do talk about a lot of Destiny, and we actually talk about other games as well. So if you search DCP, you can find that podcast as well. We're at like episode 135, somewhere around there. So
Nice.
And I'm Ki11ersix. I go by that on all of my stuff. So twitch.tv/Ki11ersix, youtube.com/Ki11ersix, and at Ki11ersix on Twitter.
As much as you guys know, I'm FightinCowboy. You Google FightinCowboy and you can find me on a variety of faces, including platforms I don't even use anymore sometimes. So mainly Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. Google FightinCowboy and you'll find me. But I guess thanks for everyone for coming by, guys. This was good. We need to
it was a lot of fun.
something like this
Yes,
again.
indeed.
So
Do it.
Yeah,
Perhaps in
definitely.
the next event? Question mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
thanks for
cool.
tuning in,
We'll-
everyone.